Hi everyone, welcome to TurboTax Canada's live office hours. We're here today with TurboTax tax expert Pecky Sang, and she's here to answer your tax questions. Thank you for being here with us, Pecky.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Today we're going to focus on tax tips to getting yourself organized this tax season. And now is the time. We've been getting a lot of questions concerning NetFile, and we have a lot of great tax tips. We'll be live for the next 30 minutes, so please send in your questions and comments on the Facebook Live feed and we'll get through as many as we can. Also keep your eyes peeled as we'll be giving away prizes to a few random questions. If we haven't had time to answer all the questions, please visit blog.turbotax.ca where you can search through several great articles. To get us started, I'm going to start with one of the questions that we've received over the last few days to allow you some time to get your questions in. Ready, Pecky?
I guess so.
Okay, Pecky. So, one of the first questions that we've received was, I purchased my TurboTax software. Why can't I file?
Well, we actually don't control when NetFile opens. And this year it's opening on February 20th. So it's mandated by CRA. So they're the ones who control when that opens.
Okay, so it's NetFile won't open until 20th, and that's controlled by the CRA.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. And can you give us an explanation on why should I have a MyCRA account and how does that benefit me?
So my CRA account is where you can access all of your tax information on the CRA website. So for example, any information about your T-slips, any RSP amounts, or if you had unused amounts from before, like any tuition credits, for example, or if you had some losses, all that information can be accessed through my CRA account.
And does it automatically get the information for you, or do you have to upload everything yourself?
Nope. So for example, your T4 or even some of your investments on the T5s or your RSP contributions, all those information is mandated by the CRA for your company or the bank to send it in for CRA. So you don't need to upload anything.
Oh, that's great. And I heard also like student slips as well?
That's correct. So your tuition slip, they will also have access to that. And that's also the reason why your unused tuition amount based on your return will be posted there as well.
That's awesome. So that saves me a lot of time. One other question that we've received, what forms and receipts should I consider gathering in order to prepare my taxes?
That's a very good question. So if you had my account from CRA, then you actually have access to the autofill functionality in TurboTax. So if you have that, then you can actually just download everything into TurboTax and you don't need to type all those slips in. So in case you're moving and you suddenly lost some of your papers, you still have that functionality to get access to all those information. Other stuff that they don't have, though, is, for example, your medical receipts. Or if you did move that year, then your moving expenses. So you would need to gather those to get access to those deductions.
And so autofill my return gathers all that information and puts it in the right places, or how does that work?
Yes. So what happens is any information that gets sent to CRA, you can download that information into TurboTax through autofill. And therefore, you don't need to type in any of those amounts in. Before, like sometimes your T4 have lots of amounts, and even if you make a slight typo, it will affect your tax return. So that's what's great about autofill. You can just bypass the typing now and just verify those are the amounts and just file your return. So it saves you a lot of times. But again, if you have medical receipts, those aren't there. So you do have to type those in.
That's pretty awesome. So it's great to have a MyCRA account. And when do you recommend that someone should have one set up, or how do you go about setting one up?
Well, it's pretty easy to set up. You just go onto the CRA's website. You do have to have certain information though. So for example, your social insurance number, your postal code, and you also have to have last year's return because they will ask you a question about a certain line on your return. But setting up is pretty easy. And online, or if you need help, you can actually call CRA to set it up as well.
That's great. That's a great tip. So one other question that we received were, how are my bonuses taxed? And how will it affect my taxes when I file next year? So
bonuses is still considered as salary. What the slight difference is the amount of deductions that get taken off by your employer. So it would seem to be like a larger chunk, and it is. But at the end of the year, though, it's just lumped in with all of your salary amounts. And so if they took too much, then you'll just get some back, and then it's just calculated like the rest of your income.
Okay. Sounds good. One new question that we've received was, I just had twins. How does that affect my tax filing?
Well, congratulations on twins. I'm sure you're probably wondering when I'm going to get to sleep next. But for twins, what's great about it is then you can claim them as dependents. So you get access to the eligible dependent amounts.
Oh, okay, so double the credit.
Unfortunately, you can only get one eligible dependent amount. But if they're in daycare, for example, then you can claim all of their daycare expenses for both person.
Oh, wow. That's great. So keep your questions coming in. We have a lot of great questions. A recent question that we've had was, this one is a great one, actually. When is a great time for me to get started on my taxes?
Well, as a tax person, I would like to think that you're thinking about your taxes all year long, but I know that's not necessarily the case. So for me, I usually tell people that you should be thinking about your taxes around the end of the year, because that's when you can, contribute extra donations if you need to, or if not, at the beginning of year too, because in case you want to put in more RSPs. So, but to do that, you really need to know your tax situation. So, but also this way, at the beginning of the year, oh, if I need to save up, you still have some time to save up, because the RSP deadline is coming at the end of February.
Okay, so we have a great question from Kenneth. He says, can I refile the tax return with TurboTax if I made a mistake?
So in order to refile, meaning they need to make an adjustment, I'm assuming, a T1 adjustment. Currently, it's not available in TurboTax. However, it's actually pretty easy to do. So all you need to do is go and download that form on the CRA website and correct any information that you want to correct on your return. So, and then just send that into CRA.
Okay, great. Jay also is asking, what is new for this tax season?
What is new? Okay, so for example, this year UCCB, in 2016 UCCB ended at the end of June. So the new amount is called the Canada Child Tax Benefit. So the Canada Child Tax Benefit is actually non-taxable, meaning you don't need to report it on your tax return. So that's something new. Another one is the government is also phasing out the fitness credit, the children's fitness credit. So that means it's going to be the second last year, I guess, in 2016, that you can claim those amounts. Anything else? Gosh.
Real estate. I remember hearing you say something.
Oh yes. So for the principal residents, this is the first year that the CRA is mandating that we are reporting that if you're selling your principal residence as a home. So in case that if you sold your residence and it wasn't your principal residence the entire time, that means you may have an amount of capital gain. So that amount you will need to report to the CRA this year.
Okay, so we have another question from Ajay. Hey, Ajay. I have a child with autism. Would you help me to get some benefits from CRA? So how would they be able to?
So, so it seems to me like there's a couple of things. One, the child will be eligible for the eligible dependent amounts, but also because they'll also be able to claim the disability amounts. So in our software, we actually walk you through all that. In TurboTax, we'll actually walk you all that. So we actually do it automatically in the background as long as you indicate that child has disability.
Okay, so they can go actually and try to use the TurboTax online, and they can actually claim, and they'll be able to see what deductions and credits that they get, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. We have another great question. I'm a student. Can I claim my student loans on my taxes?
Well, you can't write off your student loans, but the interest on the student loans you can. But it has to be the student loan that you're applying through Canada or through one of the provincial governments. So let's say you're refinancing your student loans with a bank, so you wouldn't be able to write that off.
Okay, and what if I have a child?
Your child, yes. So if your child have a student loan amount, they can transfer they can transfer their tuition amount to you. The student loan interest, off the top of my head, I can't think of it, but I'm sure our CARE agents can answer that for us.
Okay, great. That's great. If you're doing your taxes with TurboTax, so how does it collect all your information for you?
So again, what we were talking about before is through autofill, but that requires you to have my account with CRA. So with autofill, we just download all the information into TurboTax, and all of your information from your T-slips, from your RSP amounts, any unused amounts will be imported into the TurboTax.
Okay, we have a really funny one actually. My boyfriend and I just moved in. Can I add him as a dependent?
Well, if this is a common law relationship, then yes, you can claim him as your spousal amount if you qualify. But if you're just moving in and this is your first year and you haven't been living together for that long, unfortunately, no.
Great answer. Okay, so keep your questions coming in. What's the difference between TurboTax Online and Download?
So we do have a desktop product. It's what we actually started out with here at TurboTax. It's actually what I started out using. So that's our TurboTax desktop. So you download it, it's on your computer, and you can only access it through your computer. The TurboTax Online, you can access it anywhere because it is online. So you have an account with us. You can, be on your mobile. You can, be at work. You can access that. So that's really the main difference. But in terms of the functionality, where you're walking through the interview, all of that is the same.
Okay. So it's the same features and everything. It's just where you're using it and how you're using it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So one, you can access it anywhere, anytime, and the other one on your computer.
Okay, so we have another question. I never sent any T-slips info to the CRA. Will autofill my return work for me?
So yes, it will, because your employer, the banks, they're all mandated to send that information into the CRA. And that's how CRA is able to check that your information is accurate. So like I said, if you suddenly moved and you lost some of your papers, you will be able to get access to those on my account at CRA, and therefore we will be able to download that through autofill into TurboTax.
Okay. Do we have any more questions coming in? Let's see. How about you tell us a little bit about yourself and how your love for taxes started?
Well, actually, it's kind of random, I guess, whenever people ask me that, because I actually started out as a software engineer, and then I went to law school, and then that's where I found tax, and then that's when I pursued doing my master's in tax. So it's kind of roundabout way coming, and then so that's why I found coming here is kind of perfect. It kind of has a little bit of the software, touches of that on my background, and of course the tax part.
And I heard you mentioning that as a student, you always were the one that would do your taxes for the family, right? So you were very passionate about it.
Oh yeah, so I actually started doing taxes for my family since high school. I was helping my parents do it, and through TurboTax Desktop. So I've been a user for a long, long time.
And if you were to give our listeners the top 3 tips that they must consider right now when they're doing their taxes, what would you give them?
For sure, signing up for my account would be the number one, just because it makes doing your taxes so easy and so quick, just because you can download your information. So one of the stories I tell people is about my father-in-law. So when he was doing his taxes, it was like everybody, he has a bunch of T-slips, and he was trying to type them in, and he really honestly did one minor typo mistake, but that amount was off by a couple $1,000s, which made a huge difference on his return. So of course he got reassessed as well, but given the fact that the amount, even though it was off by a couple thousand, the final amount wasn't that big of a deal. But I can see that happening to a lot of people, just because especially if you're getting a lot of them and you're getting frustrating typing each amount in. So that would be my number one tip, to sign up, so just to make your life easier, and just to make sure that you don't get any of those small human errors.
So sign up for my CRA account for sure.
Yeah. Some other things that I think that people don't think about is what can possibly be your medical expenses. A lot of things that people don't think about that could qualify as medical expenses. For example, some of your gluten-free foods, like the additional amount that you need to pay for gluten-free products, that can be a medical expense because if you have celiac,
Okay, yeah.
So that's something that people don't, there's a lot of these random little ones. So, but the best thing about that is if you're not sure, you should ask, because it could be, right? And one way to ask is going to our website, going into Answer Exchange.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
That's
so
24/7, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
24/7, accessible all year long, and we have a huge community there. And so a lot of people to answer, including some of us, we go on there sometimes as well to answer people's questions.
And what if I lost some of my medical expenses? Where would I find them?
So a lot of times, your medical expenses, a lot of them is through prescription. So you can actually go to the pharmacy and ask the pharmacist to actually do a printout for you for that year.
Oh, so they'll print it out for the whole year.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's great to know.
Mm-hmm.
So Jay just asked, if I work from home, can I expense my mortgage?
Well, I guess there's several things here. So if this is if you're self-employed and you use your home as part of your office, like, it is your main office, then yes, you can write off the part that is just the office as your interest, so the mortgage interest. So for example, if that office is maybe 1/10 of your entire home, then that means 1/10 of your mortgage interest can be written off as an expense.
So a percentage of the home that you're using for work, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And does that include furniture, hydro, other expenses that you're using for work as well?
Yes, it does. So including your hydro, maybe including if you have like a special phone line for your office, or if you've made any upgrades. So let's say this year you want to refresh your office, so you want to paint it, you'll be able to write that off as well.
So Jay's also asking, hey Jay, thanks for all the questions coming in. Does TurboTax offer online help?
Yes, we do. Not only can you access all the links through online, if you have, because we do have hyperlinks in there for certain questions that we know that a lot of people are asking, so that's built in, or you can actually go through the help panel as well. But yes, you can also call us if you do need help. We're here 24/7.
So Jay's also asking, how do you organize your little slips and papers? Our office looks like a tornado just hit during tax time.
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
So what I personally do is, as they come in, I just put it in the folder. Like, I don't think about them until I actually do my taxes. So I actually, as the year goes, even like, what you were saying, like, if you lost your medical expenses and stuff, right? Then you could go. But usually what I do is I put it in the folder as the year goes along. And therefore at tax time, when I finally do my file, I have all the papers there in that one folder.
And there's also other tools out there, right? Like QuickBooks and other tools that can help them organize their files, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Especially if you're self-employed, QuickBooks will have all that information, and then it's pretty easy, right? Because they prepare it for you, and you can just download it. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for that. So, so we were going through the top 3 tips, right? Mm-hmm. So my CRA account, medical expenses, and what's your third tip?
My third tip, something, I would say a lot of people are scared about doing their taxes, and there's really nothing to be scared about. And one of the big things is just to know ahead of time what to expect. And the best way to do that is actually to go into TurboTax and see what it's like and what type of questions. And then that may actually kind of, give you hints as to what information that you need to keep in mind when you're going about your year. So, for example, especially if you're self-employed, you don't necessarily know what is deductible or not. So it is great to actually just go into TurboTax and use that and see what kind of questions are we asking, and so what are the information that I need to gather, or what kind of expenses receipts I need to keep because I know that's deductible.
And what if and is it paid, or can you just go in and try it for free?
So that's the great thing about TurboTax Online. You don't need to pay until you actually file. So you can go in and look through all the questions and all the different scenarios, including, for RSP, for example. At the end of the year, it's like, oh, I have some room for RSP, but, how much do I need to save to make an impact on my taxes in there? So then you can go in there and get a very accurate picture of, if I put in $2,000, what is really my final bottom line. I mean, we do have the RSP calculator on our website. Yeah. However, for example, if you had twins this year, maybe you'll get an extra credit this year. You don't know that until you actually go through the entire process. And there's so many different credits and deductions that are available, so your situation is unique to you. And so it's best to actually go into TurboTax Online and actually fill out all the information that you know, and therefore get a more accurate picture.
That's great. So it's for free. You can go in, you can calculate how much you can put in your RSPs. That's great. That's a great tip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so we also offer, mentioning free, I would also like to mention that we also offer TurboTax Free, which is completely free even to file. So if your situation isn't very complicated, then I would suggest you go and try out TurboTax Free. We even have the suggested slips. So in case you're not sure what you're doing, that will give you some hint as to what you need to fill out.
Okay. We have a question from Kenneth, and I think he's trying to ask, so from TurboTax, so what do we see that our customers are missing maybe when they're filing their taxes? Something that they're missing out.
Something that they're missing out in terms of, I guess, expenses or deductions.
Maybe, yeah, that they could, like you had mentioned, that medical expenses is something that,
Well, medical expenses is unique just because there are so many different ones that you can claim, and it's not all listed there, and there's like tons of different situations. But in terms of deductions, what's great about TurboTax is we do that all for you. So you don't even have to think about it, If there is a deduction that you qualify for based on your situation, we will claim it for you. So and we walk you through that in terms of our interview. So, if you have a disability, if you have any kids, or even including if you have any parents at home that you're taking care of, a senior, that could be claimed as your dependent. But we will be able to, we will ask you those questions and we'll claim those for you.
And I think I saw it was something around 400 deductions and credits that we go through, correct?
Oh, yeah. It's like there's, large amounts, yes.
That's great. Okay, I actually was thinking of a question. So as a student, why would you advise students to try to do it for themselves instead of having their parents do their taxes for them?
So, yeah, I know a lot of students rely on their parents to do their taxes, but eventually, honestly, you just need to do the transition, right? You're gonna have to move out. You're gonna have to you're gonna have to be independent. So, and one of the things that people are, it's really a fear, like, oh no, I don't know how to do it because I've never done it. But until they try it out, they won't realize how easy it is. So I would suggest to all students, even just go into the product. Even if you know that you're not going to do it yourself this year, just go into it and try it out, and you'll know how easy it is. Especially like everybody who's grew up with technology, like software now are really easy to use, and that's what we try here, to make it easy to use. And if you have any questions, we're here to answer your questions.
So will they have help in customer care through the product as well?
Yes, of course. If they have any questions, we're here. Answer Exchange is here. If they don't want to talk to a person, they can, send the question online, and we'll have somebody else answer them at, because a lot of students, of course, they're, middle of the night studying. If they have like a tax question at that time, go on Answer Exchange.
That's great. Thanks, Becky. Those are all great tips. So I guess that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for all the questions. Please keep them coming in, and we will see you next time. Thank you for being with us, and thanks, Becky, for being with us as well.
My pleasure. Bye, everybody.
Bye.